And we're now told by his campaign he is in a medical facility getting treatment for what just happened. Pamela Brown is with us here in the CNN newsroom. You're getting new information. What are you learning?
That's right. Just that he did confirm one spectator is dead, that this shooter is dead. A second spectator is in serious condition. Importantly, former President Trump is going to be okay. We know from the Trump campaign statement that he's going to be fine. The district attorney confirms that he is going to be okay. He was removed from the scene, as we know, from the U.S. Secret Service. Now, the district attorney did not know if the shooter died through a self-inflicted, wound or not. We also don't know more details about what kind of shooter this was. I think we need to be really careful until we find out more. I asked, did the shooter have a gun? Is that what you're saying? He said, I can't confirm that right now. I can't confirm anything about bullets or anything like that. So I think we need to be really careful till we get the actual confirmation of what kind of shooter this was. But the Butler District Attorney, Richard Goldinger, is confirming that one spectator is dead, a second spectator is in serious condition, and the shooter is dead. I asked him, how did this person, this shooter, that he did not have details about, by the way, get through security and have access to cause an injury to the former president there? And he said to me, look, that's the $1 million question right now. That is what we're all trying to figure out. And we know the U.S. Secret Service right now is leading this investigation. And that's a big question, because as we've heard, we just heard earlier from Wackrow, Jonathan Wackrow, Wolf, the security is so tight at these campaign events. You have a former president there. Security is as tight as it gets. And how this happened is just a major question.
Yeah, they got to learn from this incident, because these campaigns are only just beginning, and the current president of the United States is about to go to a whole bunch of rallies as well. And there's got to be heightened security at all these events. There's a Republican convention in Milwaukee this week, then a Democratic convention in Chicago a few weeks later in August. Already they had been planning, even before this incident, major security concerns. Various Department of Homeland Security officials, FBI officials, local law enforcement, the U.S. military, and others have been engaged in worrying about what potentially could happen at these two conventions. And now, as a result of this, I'm sure security is going to be expanded even more so.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you can imagine security was already going to be tight at the Republican National Convention, the Democratic one. Now, this is a learning lesson. This is historic, what has happened here today, where you have, the Republican nominee for president, a former president, Donald Trump, who is injured. You have a shooter that somehow made his or her way into that space enough to injure the former president. You have a spectator who is now dead. And you have another spectator who is in serious condition. This is historic. This is a huge deal, and this is going to be the top focus for the Secret Service to figure out what happened. I'm in touch with the Butler County District Attorney, who, by the way, says he can make it on the show in a little bit. So we look forward to hearing directly from him.
We'd like to speak to him if you can make sure he calls in, if it's even on phone or video. We'd like to get his thoughts and let our viewers know exactly what he knows. It's interesting that they're calling this a suspected gunman a shooter. So clearly there were shots fired at the former president of the United States. That's why you could see him raising his hand and blood coming out of the side of his face. We're watching all of this unfold. Pamela, excellent reporting. Thank you very much. Joining us on the phone right now is Kip Tom. He was at the event in Butler, Pennsylvania, and he was actually about 40 feet or so away from the former president. Kip, give us your eyewitness account. What can you tell us?
Yes, as you said, I was about 40 foot away to the right of former President Trump, but I saw this gun smoke and heard the fire immediately, but it was coming from the stands to the left of President Trump, towards the top, because you could see the gun smoke. About that time is when President Trump went down. It seemed like there was maybe 6 or 7 shots, a little bit of a pause, and a person behind me about 15 foot was hit. I'm not so sure he is the one that was killed. But then I thought I heard there's a little bit of a pause, and then I thought there was gunshots that came from behind me at the same elevation as the cross. Now, it could have been just echoing across the area where we were all sitting, but the reality is it really seemed like there was possibly a second shooter.
A second shooter, is that what you suspected? Because we haven't gotten any word of that yet.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm just saying, at first I saw the gun smoke coming from across. I knew right away what to look for, and I saw it over there. And then there was a big cloud of dust that appeared, and then the shots stopped. But then additional gunfire occurred, and I thought it was coming from behind me. And people around me were turning around and looking up and behind us, which had been the stage right of President Trump.
Because the additional gunfire earlier, we had been told, probably came from law enforcement, either the Secret Service or local law enforcement who were shooting the suspected gunman in this particular case. And now we're told by the Butler County District Attorney Richard Goldinger that the suspected gunman is dead. Another person at the rally is dead, and the second spectator is described as being in serious condition right now. You must have been so scared out of your mind as all of this was unfolding, Kip. Give us your sense.
I've been trained a long time ago to stay calm, and I actually continue to stand up and look for where the gunfire was coming from, and of course was watching everyone to see how Trump was reacting and make sure that he recovered and they got him off stage. But the whole audience, I don't think no one knew how to react at the time. It was a big surprise. Some people probably thought it was fireworks to start with. But as people exited, you heard all kinds of talk about, was it just fireworks, or was someone shot, or just, they didn't realize the president had been shot. So,
you were only about 40 feet away from the former president of the United States. To get into that rally, did you have to go through metal magnetometers?
Yes, everybody went through metal magnetometers that I understood. They probably had a rack of, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 of them running.
So everybody who walked in and got even relatively close to the former president went through metal detectors. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, we don't know how.
That was the goal. I can't verify that everybody went through, but they were set up to screen everybody.
And do you know how far away the suspected shooter was from the president?
I would have said if you went off to the side there, you're talking 40, probably 100 foot away, 120 foot away, maybe.
And you think people that far away went through metal detectors too?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, they were sitting in the stages to the right and to the left, and then there was, of course, people in behind President Trump sitting behind him as well.
Yeah, so that's encouraging that the police security was tight. We don't know how this suspected shooter got as close as he apparently did to the former president of the United States and fired shots at the former president and in the process killed somebody who was just there And then this shooter is now dead as well. We heard the Secret Service agents shouting out, "Shooter down, shooter is down, shooter is down." So we suspected that that shooter had been shot by local law enforcement or the Secret Service or the FBI or the military, all of whom protect a former president of the United States just as they protect a sitting president of the United States. Any other points you want to make, Kip, before I let you go?
No, I mean, it was after just a number of the shots came off that you could tell there was a different caliber gun shot. There's a lot going on there, but I'm saying it was after 5, 6, 7 shots, I heard a different caliber gun being fired. So I assume that's the Secret Service with their guns. They had him identified and was shooting at him.
Yeah, well, Kip, I'm happy you're okay. And a lot of other people are okay. This could have been, God forbid, even a whole lot worse than it already has been reported. Kip Tom, thank you very much for calling in. We appreciate it very much. John Miller is still with us, our chief law enforcement and intelligence analyst. Do you want to give us, John, your analysis of what we just heard from this eyewitness?
Sure, and I think what Ambassador Tom is experiencing is what we call the fog of war, which is having been there as the eyewitness and remembering it the way he remembers it. But as we have shown this video a number of times, what you hear is 2, 3 rapid shots before the president goes down. And when I say goes down, his agents are yelling down. He grabs his ear and he puts himself down on the ground, and then they go around him. Well, what you hear immediately after that is you hear multiple shots, and that law enforcement returning fire against the shooter. Now, the question that keeps coming up, and we can get enlightenment on this from Jonathan Wackrow, is how does a shooter get into a rally or close enough to shoot a presidential candidate? They're magnetometers and they're checking everybody coming in. What we are being told by my law enforcement sources now is that the shooter was field outside the perimeter of this event, this fenced-in event, that he made his way to a low rooftop of a single-story building. And when you look at this background, you see that it's a giant field surrounded by these low buildings. They're like one-story buildings, possibly stables. That he made his way to the rooftop, that he fired a couple of shots, and that the counter sniper teams in place, likely, for just this purpose, probably returned that fire, because that's where you hear that 6 or 7 shots of a different caliber in rapid succession, and then total quiet. So that control is peace, we are told by law enforcement, and that will be the beginning of this entire second chapter, which is who is he? Where is he from? What do we learn from the background investigation, talking to his friends, his family, digging into his social media, the search warrant that's going to be being drawn up right now as we speak to hit his house or whatever house he's staying in, these phones, computers, documents, and so on, because they're going to need to know, is this a lone individual who did this completely on their own? Is this person part of a known group, either one that exists in life or exists online? Are there others in this group? We are at the very, very early stages. But I think one of the things that Jonathan Wackrow could help us with is, at these events, there's the counter-assault team. They're ready to engage anybody that comes forward as a threat especially an armed threat. But there are also the counter sniper teams. Now, this is a very challenging environment. You've got this field, this wide open field. You have the president at former president at one of his rallies. And there's no high ground around it except for these low rooftop buildings. And I'm being told by sources that the shooter had climbed up onto one of these single-story rooftops and used that to shoot over the fence into the event. He wasn't inside the event. So, Wolf, that is how the information is shaping up. Now, I'm going to preface them saying, of course, this information is early. It will evolve and possibly change, but that's the facts that law enforcement is working on right this minute.